The Mathematics SBA Handbook, a step-by-step guide by Nathalie Stewart. I encourage you all to go out and buy this book. It's amazing, especially if you're going to write CXC. Now here are the contents. First off, the author encourages us to not panic when we are about to complete this SBA. We have a question answer segment. Can you write a break it down segment? The break it down segment has to do with the title, page, project title, introduction, table of contents, method of data collection, presentation of data, analysis of data, discussion of findings, and conclusion. Now, these are the different headings that you will need in your SBA, from title page to conclusion. Now, what do you love? Choices, finishing touches, typing the math. Now, so when you talk about typing the math, we're talking about utilizing software such as Excel and Word to help us to get the appropriate symbols that we'll need in our SBA. So, of course, you want to know how to get those symbols out of Word so you can actually, perfect the look of your SBA. Inserting tables, charts, and graphs, that's another heading. Working with your teacher, some wonderful notes there, and about the author as well. And the author encourages us not to panic. Let's look at an excerpt of this. He said, maths has what? Yes, dear. As a student writing the Caribbean Examination Council mathematics exam, you are now required to complete a school-based assessment. Breathe. Come on. It's doable. Incredibly doable. In fact, as with all things, we just need to take it one step at a time. First step, do not panic, or at least try not to. The first emotion that most students associate with completing an SBA is anxiety. The first emotion that too many students associate with math is dread. A mathematics SBA, therefore, to the teenager's mind can seem like a recipe for disaster. However, it doesn't have to be. This book begins by first attempting to calm the students' fears by answering the most frequently asked questions that are posted before starting the project. SBAs are to be written in reported speech. So, a review of this with exercises follows. The requirements for a good grade in each of the 9 sections of the SBA are then explained. With the tools to write the SBA having now been provided, the student is offered a series of exercises and questions to assist with choosing his or her topic. The book provides sample topics with suggested variations for each section of the syllabus. Step-by-step instructions are offered on how to type mathematical symbols, insert equations, and create graphs. Throughout the book, it is stressed that the student must work along with the teacher. Challenges that the students may encounter while doing so are explored in the final chapter. Now let's see if we can address some of your concerns in the next section. Question. I'm very good at maths, or I'm very good in maths. Can't I just skip the SBA and do well in the written exams and earn a passing grade? No. If you do not submit an SBA, you fail the exam. Yeah, that's really true. Next question. How much percent of my final grade for CXC is the SBA worth? Answer, 20%. Yep. Question. What if I get a low score on my SBA? Can I still pass the exam? Yes. Once your SBA is submitted, those marks will be combined with the ones you earned in the written portions of the exam to determine your final grade. However, you should be continually submitting your SBA to your teacher and receiving feedback so that you can improve your score. Question. What format should my SBA take? What format should my SBA take? Answer. Your SBA will be submitted electronically either in Word doc or PDF format. Question: are there any questions I should ask my teacher before I begin? Yes, it is a good idea to ask your teacher when and how often he or she would be willing to look at your progress. You should also ask whether your teacher would prefer to receive printed copies of your progress or electronic copies. Remember, your teacher is the one who will be marking your assignment and providing feedback. So you want to ensure that they are able to do so as often and as easy as possible. Question: is there a word limit for the SBA? Answer: yes. Your SBA should not have more than 1,000 words. Let's look at how you are going to write those words in the next section. Can you write? For the SBA, you have to write in the third person and you have to write in the past tense. Both take us back to primary school. Let's start by reviewing the third person. When you are writing in the third person, you make statements from your perspective. First person: I, singular personal pronoun. We, plural personal pronoun. Second person: you, both singular personal pronoun and plural personal pronoun will be you. Third person: we say he, she, or it when it's a singular personal pronoun, or we say they when it's a plural personal pronoun. Singular possessive pronoun and plural possessive pronoun. For the third person, we use his, her, or its, no apostrophe, or their for plural personal pronoun. Example: I counted the marbles in my bag. However, when you are writing in the third person, you state the same information, but from the perspective of someone else looking at you. Example: he counted the marbles in his bag, or she counted the marbles in her bag, or the student counted the marbles in his bag, or the student counted the marbles in her bag. For your SBA, choose the word that you want to use to represent yourself. After all, you can't go through the whole SBA saying he or she all the time. Feel free to use any of these either in your SBA or just for inspiration. Whatever term you choose, be sure to use it for the entire SBA. What are those words? Writer, author, researcher, student, or investigator. So you use these instead of saying I or me. In other words, these are all third person. So have a look at the sentences below. Closely look at how the first person statements differ from those that are in the third person. First person example: I measured the line with my ruler and it was 7 centimeters long. Third person: the writer measured the line with her ruler and it was 7 centimeters long. Another example, first person: after I asked each student to tell me the number of books in his bag, I used my calculator to find the average number of books that each student brought to school. Third person: after the researcher asked each student to tell him the number of books in his bag, he used his calculator to find the average number of books that each student had brought to school. First person: I created questionnaires and distributed them to the students in my class. Third person: the student created questionnaires and distributed them to the students in her class. Final example, first person: I mounted a height chart on a vertical wall. I then stood against the wall while my mother recorded my height. Third person: the investigator mounted a height chart on a vertical wall. She then stood against the wall while her mother recorded her height. Try these. Rewrite the following statements so that they are from the perspective of a third person. Each day for a month, I measured the height of the seedlings. What would you say for this one? Next, we stood at our school's front gate and recorded the time at which each fifth former arrived at school. We write this in third person. After starting my new exercise regimen, I weighed myself every day for a month. Write this in third person. In this SBA, my goal is to determine the number of students that study both social studies and chemistry. Write it in third person. You may pause the video and read these too and write them in third person. Past tense. Did you notice that all the examples given were in the past tense? This is because for your SBA, you are expected to write in the past tense. Let's look at some examples. Present tense. The investigator runs 2 miles every day and times herself. In the past tense, this will read, the investigator ran 2 miles every day and timed herself. Another example, at the end of each day, the writer enters the height of her seedling into an Excel spreadsheet. In past tense, at the end of each day, the writer entered the height of his seedlings into an Excel spreadsheet. You may read these examples for present tense and past tense. Notice that in the third person, the verb cut did not change. Okay, so let's read it. For her investigation into chromatography, the author cut rectangular strips of paper measuring 10 centimeters by 2 centimeters. That's in present tense. Now in past tense, it says, for her investigation into chromatography, the author cut rectangular strips of paper measuring 10 centimeters by 2 centimeters. Notice that in the third person, the verb cut did not change. Other verbs that remain the same, both in the present tense and in the past tense, are bet, broadcast, burst, cost, cast, forecast, hit, hurt, let, offset, put, quit, reset, set, shed, spit, spread. This word is inconclusive. There are different rules used to obtain the past tense of a verb. If unsure of the past tense of a verb, perform an online search before you use it. You may try these. Rewrite these sentences in the past tense. The author measures her shadow at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and 12 noon every Saturday. You may read these and do the same. Pause the video, read them, and convert into past tense. Breaking it down. The SBA has 10 components: title page, project title, table of contents, introduction, method of data collection, presentation of data, analysis of data, discussion of findings, and conclusion. Let's have a closer look at each. The title page. This is the first page of your SBA. It is the cover page. On it, you should have at least 6 pieces of information. Student name, which is your name. Student registration number, which is your 10-digit CXC registration number. School name, which is the name of your school, or your school's name. School center number, the first 6 digits of your CXC registration number. That's the school center number. Your year of examination, 2000, whenever. Teacher's name, your teacher's name, go there. Project title, title of your chosen SBA. Feel free to incorporate, or should I say, feel free to decorate the cover if you wish. Relevant quotes or funny pictures are a way to inject your personality into your project, but just don't overdo it. It should still look professional. Project title. Project title. So let's go back. So we see that we need a title page, project title, table of contents. So we're going to go in that order. So we're now on to the project title. This is what you would write on the cover of the first order. Let's go again. This is what you would write on the cover or the first page of your SBA. It should tell the reader the problem that you hope to solve while working on your SBA without being too long. Try to ensure that your project title, 1, is short, no more than 15 words. 2, addresses a situation that can possibly exist in the real world. That is, no fantasy scenarios involving people that are 25 meters tall. Wow. 3, try to ensure that your project title is to the point. Don't run around the bush. That's right. 4, can be referred to in your conclusion. Your project title should indicate what you hope to answer in your conclusion. Let's look at a case 1 scenario here. Example, Marlene has the following project title: The Tree in My Backyard. This title is not too long at all. However, is it appropriate? Marlene has the following project title: The Tree in My Backyard. As the reader, do you know what Marlene intends to do with the tree in her backyard? Is she going to time how long it takes her to climb it? Is she going to measure around the thickest part of its bark? Is she planting a tree in her backyard and measuring its height each week? No one knows. And that is the problem. That is a problem. Your project title should give the reader an idea of what you are setting out to do. It is to the point in the sense that we know she's going to do something with the tree in her backyard. However, she has not been to the point concerning what she plans to do with it. Her conclusion does not have a clear target or a goal set for it. Marlene project title needs to be revised. Case 2. Example. Joanna has the following project title: Determining the average number of minutes taken each morning to commute to school X. Determining the average number of minutes taken each morning to commute to school X. This title is not too long. It is longer than Marlene's, but it still has not passed the 15-word mark. The reader has an idea, just from reading the cover of her SBA, of what she intends to do. It is to the point, and most importantly, she can refer to it in her conclusion. In her conclusion, at the end of her SBA, Joanna can now write: The researcher determined that she took X minutes on average to commute to school X in the morning. Let me read it again. In her conclusion, at the end of her SBA, Joanna can now write: The researcher determined that she took Y minutes, a certain amount of minutes, on average to commute to school X each morning. Now, tips for you. 1. Spend a lot of time working on your project title. Nothing is wrong with that. You want to ensure you have an appropriate title. Once you think that you have a working project title, share it with a family member. Ask them to listen to your title, and then ask them to tell you what they think you will be doing. If their response is vague or incorrect, then you know that you will have to try again. 3. After passing the family test, share it with your teacher and receive feedback. Do not proceed unless your teacher has vetted and approved your project title. Introduction. In this section, you will be formally stating what you want to do. Do you remember earlier on when you were told to choose a word to represent yourself, like writer, author, researcher, etc.? We're going to do something similar here once more. Choose the word that you want to use throughout your SBA to represent what you hope to achieve. Again, you should feel free to use any of the following words in your SBA or just as inspiration. Now, this is the introduction we're talking about. So the words you can choose from are aim, goal, objective, purpose. Once you've chosen your word, you should be all set. In your introduction, the first thing that you will do is to write down what each, let's go again. In your introduction, the first thing that you will do is to write down what you intend to do in your SBA using the word that you have chosen. So, in Jonas SBA, we may see. The aim of this project is to determine the average number of minutes that the writer takes each morning to commute to school X. Once you have written down what you intend to do, you may want to skip a line. The next part of your introduction involves describing the project. This may seem daunting at first. What do you say? How much is too much? To assist you, there are some questions in the following section. Answering these questions will help you to create your introduction. All the questions may not pertain to your chosen project, but if you answer a few of them, your introduction will be finished in a snap. Introduction questions that will help you with your introduction. Remember to answer them in the third person and in the past tense. Suggested compulsory questions. Why did you choose this topic? What did you find interesting about it? What topic or concept in mathematics will help you? Let's go over it again. What topic or concept in mathematics will you be using to achieve your goal? 3. Explain the concept, that is, state formulae, and give definitions where appropriate. 4. Why do you think that the use of this concept is appropriate to achieve your goal? Other suggested questions, ideas to enhance your introduction. Why is it important that research be conducted on your chosen topic? Does any place or object in your project have historical or societal significance? If so, what? Have you ever tried to solve a similar problem in class? If so, give an example of one such question with a worked solution. 8. Who will benefit from the results of your investigation? 9. How can the results of your investigation bring change in your home, society, or school? Do you think that the results of your investigation can help you in your adult life? If so, how? So these are some additional questions that you could ask, and the responses are what you will actually put in your introduction. Table of contents. This section of the SBA is completed last. This is because, let's go again. Table of contents. This section of the SBA is completed last. This is because you would not know the page numbers of the different sections beforehand. What you can do, however, is to insert a page with your table of contents immediately after your table of contents. This section of the SBA is completed last. This is because you would not know the page numbers of the different sections beforehand. What you can do, however, is to insert a page with your table of contents immediately after your title page. Put in various sections or categories on the page and leave out the page numbers. Leave out the page numbers until you are finished. Your table of contents should have at least, the very least, the following: section, and then you put the title page, project title, table of contents, introduction, method of data collection, presentation of data, analysis of data, discussion of findings, conclusion. And on the other column, you have page numbers. So you'll basically be able to put those in when you're finished or when you're through with your SBA. So you know what page the title page will start from, the project title will start from, the table of contents will start from, etc. So you can put those in at the end of, or at the completion of your SBA. Your method of data collection tells the reader exactly what steps you took to get the results that you did. This means that anyone who reads your method of data collection and follows your steps should essentially get the same results. Your method of data collection should be 1. Accurate. In other words, you want to avoid any mistakes. 2. A bulleted list, preferably. If you prefer to write in paragraphs, sure, do it. That's fine. But it makes it a bit more challenging for the examiner to read. Precise and detailed step-by-step account of the actions you did to get your data should be included in your method of data collection. Suitable and practical to achieve your goal. Right? So your method of data collection should be suitable and practical to achieve your goal. Should be precise and detailed, be a detailed step-by-step account of the actions you took to get your data. Now, here's an example. Michael aims to determine the average amount of money spent by a student during break time at the school X. So first draft. 1. The researcher stood in an area that was close to the cash register at the canteen. Step 2. Each time the cashier informed a student of his or her bill, the researcher recorded it on a sheet of paper. Simple enough, right? But can we do better? Does the method of data collection in the first draft meet all 4 criteria? We're talking about these 4 criteria. In other words, accurate, bulleted, precise and detailed, and suitable and practical to achieve your goals. But let's look at it. For the most part, Michael has had a good start, and it is his first draft. However, the suitability and practicality of his chosen method does raise concern. Can you imagine him writing $4.50, 75 cents, $31, $14.75, 0.75, 42, etc. for hundreds of students? What challenges might he encounter? Now, remember, your SBA should be a sample. So if your school only has 400 or 500 students, 10% of those will be like 50 students. So, you at least want to have 10% or more, a little more, of the population of your school. So, you wouldn't want to have hundreds of students or hundreds of data being collected from students. Okay, so after collecting all the data, Michael would now have the challenge of tallying it so that he could present his data in the next section. Perhaps if he had tweaked his method of data collection a bit, this could have been avoided. Michael receives feedback from his teacher and generates his second draft. Now let's look at the second draft with the steps. On the day before he planned to collect data, the researcher approached the staff of School X canteen and requested their permission to stand near the cashier at break time to collect data. 2. On the day before he planned to collect data, the researcher also approached the teacher of the class that he had before break on the day of the data collection. He asked to be excused from class 10 minutes before the start of the break. Step 3. He then constructed the following table for his use during break period so that the data would be organized as it was swiftly collected. Now we see the headings: amount of money spent, and they're categorized: $1 to $5, $6 to $10, $11 to $15, $16 to $20, $21 to $25, $26 to $30, and so forth. And we have the tally and the frequency. Now let's look at step 5. At break time, after each student placed their order and was told their bill, the researcher entered a tally mark in the appropriate row of his table. Phew, Michael pulled out all the stops with this one. Which one do you prefer and why? In your presentation of data, you must make sure that 1. Your data is correct. 2. Your data is structured in an aesthetic way, meaning it should look real presentable, and attractive, not looking all messy. Let's look at 3. You should ensure that you have at least one table or one graph. You don't need both, and you can have more. 4. The maths concept that you identified in your introduction is used accurately. Find a creative way to display the data that you found. Be kind to the reader. Organize it in such a way that it makes it easy for the examiner to read and quickly understand the result you obtained. Case 1. Let's look at the case. Hallie wants to determine if there is a certain Sunday in the month on which a church has its greatest attendance. She records the number of persons attending a church for 3 months. So this is just a scenario of what took place. Now let's look at the correct data. For correct data, depending on the size of the church, Hallie may arrive early and count persons as they enter. However, with persons going in and out, she may soon be confused. It may be best to count during a time in the service when most are seated. To confirm her data is correct, she may consult the ushers for their records. This shows once more how important it is to have an accurate method of data collection. Accurate data should be collected if the method of data collection is carefully considered. Structured. Write a paragraph detailing what transpired on each of the Sundays that she recorded attendance. However, a table would make the information much more accessible. Let's look at this table. Type of Sunday, attendance, type of Sunday, attendance. Type of Sunday would be we have the little parts to the type of Sundays for the first Sunday of month 1, second Sunday of month 1, third Sunday of month 1, with attendance 80, 55, and 49 respectively. Now after the third Sunday, we go to the fourth Sunday of month 1, then we go to the first Sunday of month 2, the second Sunday of month 2, etc., right? And then we have the attendance for each of those, 45, 76, and 59. So those were the records taken. Aesthetic presentation. Here, a graph, chart, table, or drawing may help. If you're not sure how to create these charts, please read the chapter Finishing Touches. So we're going to look at that. Accurate use of math concept. At this point, you may be wondering how you can show that you accurately use the concept without actually performing the calculations that you expect to be in your analysis of data. Let's go over this again. Aesthetic presentation. Here, a chart, graph, table, or drawing may help. If you're not sure how to create these charts, please refer to the chapter Finishing Touches. And so we see this chart with attendance on Sundays as the header, and then we have these bars, but the quantity will be on the left hand side here, going up the vertical axis, the y-axis, and on the horizontal axis, the x-axis. I can't really see what's there, but we could go back and see what we actually used, right? We see first Sunday, so I guess these will be the type of Sunday that will be underneath, and the quantity will be on the left. So accurate use of math concept. At this point, you may be wondering how you can show that you accurately use the concept without actually performing the calculations that you expect to be in your analysis of data. In the process of presenting your data, you have many opportunities to demonstrate that you understand concepts that you often take for granted. Let me read this over. Aesthetic presentation. Here, a graph, chart, table, or drawing may help. If you're not sure of how to create these charts, please refer to the chapter Finishing Touches. And we're going to get there. So we've seen an example of a graph with the heading Attendance on Sundays. For the vertical axis, we have the numbers, in terms of the attendance. We could go back and see what that looked like. We have 80, 55, 49, and so forth. And of course, the numbers will actually just go up in order from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and so forth, right? And then under each bar, we have the type of Sunday. The first Sunday, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, for a particular month. Then we go into the next month, right? First, second, third, fourth, sorry. And then, well, some months have 5 Sundays. So you basically would have to know what month you're dealing with there, right? So underneath here, well, I can't really see the information clearly, but you get the idea. Now, in terms of the second point here, accurate use of math concepts. All right. At this point, you may be wondering how you can show that you accurately use the concept without actually performing the calculations that you expect to be in your analysis of data. Right? So you may be wondering how you can show that you accurately use the concepts without actually performing calculations. All right. So in the process of presenting your data, you have many opportunities to demonstrate that you understand concepts that you often take for granted. While presenting your data, you need to ask these questions. Did you demonstrate that you understand the concept of a graph on a table? Did you demonstrate an understanding of tallying and frequency? Did you create a scale drawing to show the measurements obtained? And we're talking about depending on the SBA that you have. So a scale drawing will be necessary in some instances where you might have a shape and you want to basically, you might be dealing with angles and lines and so forth, straight lines and so forth. So you may want to do a scale drawing. Now it says, did you draw a diagram containing the measurements you obtained so that the reader could better see how the mathematical concepts apply to the problem? And so we have an example here. All these are ways you can accurately use mathematical concepts. Often we understand a lot more than we think, and we take our knowledge for granted. Analysis of data. Yeah, it's crunch time. Whatever you set out to find, determine, compare, or quantify, here is where the maths goes down. It's your working section. Now that you have informed the reader of the data you have collected, it's time to use this data to achieve your goal. As you are told in all exams, you must show all your work in. Can't type the maths? No worries. There is a chapter in this book addressing that very thing. So relax about the maths that you have to type. This is the easy part. Case. Carter wants to determine the minimum number of meters of carpet he would have to buy to cover the floor of his rectangular room. He has measured the length and width of the room, and he has measured the width of the carpet being considered. You may want to pause and read this over and internalize it. Now, in Carter's analysis, he would 1. State the formula needed to find the area of his room. Of course, it's a rectangular room, so it's an area of a rectangle which is length by width. Now, restate the data that he collected and calculate the area of the room. So that's what you want to do in your analysis. You want to restate the data. I mean, say what what data you have, and calculate the area of the room. Divide the area of the room by the width of the carpet to determine the length of the carpet needed. And you want to write a statement clearly indicating the minimum number of meters of carpet his parents would have to buy. Discussion of findings. In this section, you may discuss how the findings impacted you. Were you surprised? Do they hold personal significance? How can the findings impact others? Is there a person or a group that would benefit if you shared your findings with them? You may discuss suspected sources of errors, factors that you believe may have contributed to the findings. You may suggest that further research be done to determine whether your suspicions are true. To help us understand components in this section, let's go back to Haley and Carter. Oh, Haley, H-I-L-E, yes. Haley attendance to church. Let's go over this again. Discussions of findings. In this section, you may discuss how the findings impacted you. Were you surprised? Do they hold personal significance? How can the findings impact others? Is there a person or a group that would benefit if you shared your findings with them? You may also discuss suspected sources of error. You may also discuss factors that you believe may have contributed to the findings. You may suggest that further research is needed to be done to determine whether your suspicions are true. To help us understand components in this section, let's go back to Haley and Carter. So Haley is dealing with the attendance at church. In 3 months that Haley recorded attendance at church, the highest attendance in each month was recorded on the first Sunday. Let's get a discussion on findings. Haley would first state her findings and then comment on them. She may share that on the first Sunday the church partakes in communion or that babies are blessed on that day. Maybe on the first Sunday tokens are distributed to all persons celebrating a birthday that month. Haley may say that she expected the greatest attendance to be on the first Sunday because of any of these reasons. Let's look at Carter's example. Carter's example deals with the carpet for his room. Carter measured the dimensions of his room, of his rectangular room, as well as the width of the carpet being considered, and determined the length of carpet that he would have to buy. So let's look at the discussion of findings for Carter's carpet. Carter would first state his findings and then comment on them. That's the first thing he would do. He would first state his findings and comment on them. He may share that after having bought the carpet, he attempted to install it and noticed that he had too many little sections of it being merged. He may share that it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as if he had sought to determine the length of carpet needed to install the minimum number of pieces of carpet on the floor. To aid the reader, he may include a diagram. And so let's look at the diagram. If his room measured 5 meters by 3 meters and the carpet had a width of 2 meters, according to Carter's calculation, he would only need 7.5 meters of carpet. So the area of the room is 5 meters by 3 meters, which gives an area of 5 3 is 15 meters squared. The length of carpet will therefore be the area of the room being 15 meters squared divided by the width of the carpet. And so the length of the carpet needed will be 7.5 meters. When he attempted to carpet his room, it would look like this. So you have 5, and then you have 2 meters going up, and so that's an area of 10 meters. And since it's 50 meters, you need another area of 5 meters, right? He has a 5 meters of carpet remaining. And so you cut this up and fit it over a 2.5 by 1 and 2.5 by 1. Give a sum of 5 meters. So, of course, he could actually design this all very pleased, but this probably would be one of the easiest ways. And, there are lots of cuts. And of course, he doesn't like that. So if he wanted to have less than 3 pieces of carpet in his room, then he would have needed 2 5-meter lengths. That is 10 meters. Carter may note that in his quest to save money, the carpet in his room does not look as pleasing as it could have been. So that is noted. Conclusion, the end. In your conclusion, state what you found. Your conclusion should respond directly to your project title. Use the same words that you used in your project title as far as is possible. It should not be too long. In fact, in some cases, it may only be a sentence. After planning this project and carrying out the research, what did you ultimately find? What were your results? Please ensure that your conclusion is directly linked to your project title and/or the goal of your project as stated in the introduction. Let's look at the next part. What do you love? When choosing a project title, there are many factors that you should consider. One such factor is the degree to which you enjoy working with the associated maths concept. It is understandable that you would be more motivated to work on a project if it is directly related to a topic that you enjoy. The aim of this chapter is to assist you in clarifying your thoughts and interests. By determining these, you'll be at least one step closer to choosing the project title that works for you. Answer the questions below. Write down the first things that came to your mind. What was your favorite fictional character as a child? What made you admire that character? When you are an adult, how do you think you would use your knowledge of maths every day? What is your favorite subject at school right now? Think of the most enjoyable class. Think of the most enjoyable class that your math teacher taught. What topic was covered in the lesson? What made it enjoyable? What would you be willing to do for the rest of your life, even if you were never paid for it? What resources are easily and readily available to you for your project? 1. Transport to an off-campus site. Personal computer with internet access and Microsoft Office, Word, and Excel. Cash for objects that may be needed. Parental support. Other. You may list these. You may say which of these resources are easily and readily available for your project. All of this will enable you to determine which project will be the best. What mindset do you have when you consider attempting your SBA project? Doing the easiest, quickest one that will earn you marks? Doing something that falls within your range of interest? Doing the topic that your teacher has assigned, or other? Carefully answer these questions. Think of ways that maths can overlap in each case. Brainstorm, think. What would be interesting to investigate with mathematics? Well, the next chapter offers quite a range of wonderful, amazing, great ideas. Choices. In this chapter, project ideas are categorized by choices. In this chapter, project ideas are categorized by topic and then by maths concept. For each suggested idea, variations may be made. In some cases, the idea may just be what you needed to inspire the creation of your own unique project. Have fun! Consumer arithmetic. Sales tax. First one. What is the rate of sales tax in your country? Do all supermarkets obey the law? Find out. Make a list of the items that your parent plans to buy, or parents plan to buy. Go to the supermarket beforehand and obtain the prices. Calculate what the bill should be. Then go shopping with your parent or parents for the same items. Does the bill match your calculations? Why or why not? There might be some variations you could use. It might not be a supermarket, it could be a hardware store, drugstore, etc. The bills at 2 or 3 supermarkets could also be obtained and compared. Okay, so you could also look at discount, profits, and loss. The business crook. A business owner is in the practice of raising his prices by small increments every week and then announcing a grand sale. Patrons who believe that they are getting a huge discount rush to buy his merchandise, not realizing that they pay the same price that the item was marked at in the first place. This really does happen. The owner hires you to price his merchandise. How do you accomplish what the job description entails? Hire purchase. I am moving out. Student gets his first job. Eager to leave home, the student goes to a furniture store seeking information on the hire purchase plans that are available for the items that he or she would need. After receiving information and creating a budget, the student must determine whether such a move is feasible. Simple interest. Loan from mom or dad. Student gets a small but fixed allowance every week. A concert is approaching or there is an expensive item that a student really wants. Parents agree to loan the money, but insist that the funds must be paid at a certain interest rate. Determine the repayment amount and state the pros and cons of the loan. Is it worth it? What would be the comfortable level of risk for a student? Which rate would be preferred and why? Oh, compound interest, which can, we have appreciation, depreciation. I'm not seeing this word properly. Is it saying hot, H-O-T, off, or log? I'm not sure. But either way, visit several car dealers and via survey or questionnaire, determine the selling price of different vehicles and their value once they are driven off the lot. Okay. driven off the lot. For a richer study, you may try to find out the value of the vehicle at the 1 year mark, 2 year mark, etc. You can then calculate and compare rates of depreciation. Note well, banks may also be surveyed to learn their rates in the event a vehicle loan is not paid and the car is repossessed. Rates and taxes. CPA in training. Visit your country's tax revenue office website and learn about the allowances that have been established by the government. Prepare the tax return for a relative. Compare your work with the return that they file. Utilities. Meterman. On your parent's bill, note the date on which the meter was last read. Also, note the date on which it is next projected to be read. On that date, note the meter reading and calculate the value of the next bill before it arrives in the mail. Compare calculations with the amount quoted on the actual bill. Invoices and shopping bills. Okay, so you may pause the video and read these. Sets, you may also pause the video and read these. Measurement. Again, you may pause the video and read these. These are lots of suggestions, some good suggestions. We have some statistics, algebra as well. Again, you may pause the video and read these. Okay, so hopefully you paused the video and looked at the others. Finishing touches, word limit. The word limit for the SBA is 1,000 words. To determine how many words your document contains, you may lock in the lower left corner of your screen when in Microsoft Word. Okay, let me read it over. Finishing touches, word limit. The word limit for the SBA is 1,000 words. To determine how many words your document contains, you may look in the lower left corner of your screen when you're in Microsoft Word. Click on Review on the taskbar and then click Word Count on the ribbon. If, after checking your word count, you realize that you have more than 1,000 words, some careful editing needs to occur. Firstly, you do not want to cut out important data. The first place that you may try to reduce is the introduction section. If you had answered more than the compulsory 4 questions, then you may want to delete your answers to the others. Table of contents. After you have finished all sections of your SBA, ensure that each section begins on a new page. Then create a table of contents on the page immediately following your title page. Ensure that each section of your SBA is listed on the left of the page, and the associated page numbers are on the right. Strive to make your table of contents look pleasing to the eye. Adding page numbers. Page numbers may be added in Microsoft Word by first clicking Insert on the taskbar and then selecting Page Number on the ribbon. Once you have done this, you will see the different formatting options that are available. Labeling pictures, charts, and graphs. All your non-text elements of the SBA must be labeled. Examples of these elements are images, charts, and graphs. Firstly, your labeling must be systematic. What does this mean? What does this mean? Well, the categories of labels must be clear and sequencing must be logical. All right, let's try again. We'll look at an example. Let's suppose that an SBA has 3 images in total. If you label the first image as image 1, then the second image as picture 2, and the last as graph 3, then your labeling is not systematic. You need to use one word or handle. That's saying HANDLE. Okay. Therefore, one correct way to label the pictures would be image 1, image 2, and image 3. Let us now consider logical sequencing. We will use the same SBA having 3 pictures. We now know that we should choose one word when labeling all pictures. This time, let us use the word picture. So we will begin labeling picture A, picture 2, picture 3. The labeling is systematic, but the sequencing is not logical. Decide whether you will use letters, numbers, or numerals to identify your elements. Lastly, beneath each element, there should be a description of what the image, graph, or chart is portraying. For instance, if we look at this bar graph, it says chart 1, bar graph showing the number of students late in the first week of school. Now you want to do what? Convert from .doc to .pdf. On the taskbar, click File, then Save As. Two fields should then appear. In the upper field, you would type the name that you would like your document to be called. In the lower field, you would indicate the format in which you would like it to be saved. Click on the small arrow at the right of the lower field. A drop-down menu should then appear. Click PDF or .pdf. Ensure your file name is correct in the upper field and then click Save. Type in the maths. All right, so you know where to go, right? Insert and look for equations. Click on equations and you have some very nice icons that you can use depending on what you want to include. All right. Let me pause the video and read these. Inserting tables, charts, and graphs. Again, you may look at these. So they have the names of some persons here and the numbers. You want to highlight that and you want to click on Insert. And so you must do this. Will be in Microsoft Excel, by the way. So you would type in the names of the persons, the quantities, you highlight it, go to Insert, and in the center of the ribbon you will see an assortment of charts, bar chart, pie chart, etc. Choose the chart type that you prefer, and voila. And so we have a bar chart here. To enter your own title, click on Chart Title at the top of the graph, and use your keyboard to edit. To add legend and data values, experiment with the Quick Layout button on the same ribbon, as you can see here. Working with your teacher. I am nervous about my SBA. What do I do if my teacher hasn't started working on it? Approach your teacher to let he or she know that you are wondering if she or he had a particular topic in mind for the class's SBA. If she says yes, politely ask what it is and whether he or she would mind if you started brainstorming. Ask if it would be okay for you to show him or her topics that you came up with, and the process begins. If the teacher says no, ask whether you can work on a topic of your choice, and ask whether it would be all right for you to bring some topics to him or her sometime in the near future. My maths class is so big, and my teacher is always busy. How can I get feedback quickly? At the start of this process, when you are asking a teacher about the topics of the SBA, ask him or her to let you know his or her preferred method of receiving SBA drafts, hard copy, email, etc. One tip that helps if your teacher is always on the go is to do the SBA in little pieces and print each edition as you go along. For example, you came up with 3 SBA topics, print them. It will be easier on your nerves to stand as the teacher reads all 3 and offers feedback versus staying at home day after day wondering if he or she would have checked his or her email. Similarly, if you write your paragraphs, For the method of data collection, print just the paragraph so that it can be marked quickly. My teacher said they would get someone to do my SBA for me. What do I tell my teacher? No. Let's back up. You need to do your own SBA. If you don't create it yourself, then you cannot be sure that someone somewhere else doesn't have your SBA or some version of it. If your SBA is discovered to have been plagiarized, there are serious implications for you, for your classmates, and for your school. Question: my computer crashed and I lost my SBA. Why doesn't my teacher believe me? The dog eating the homework is the most common excuse there is. Your teacher would have probably heard excuses like these before. To save yourself from this dilemma, always email your SBA to yourself after you have made changes. This way, even a computer crashing would not deter your progress significantly. And that's it. You may pause the video and read about the author.